Well, good morning. This is Monday, the 13th of June. I was fortunate enough to attend a used bookstore, which I do all the time, it seems, and recover a copy of some poetry by Carl Sandburg. Sandburg died in the year 1967. He profiled a lot of hardworking Chicago, Illinois in his poems. He also wrote a multi-volume biography on President Abraham Lincoln. I had a copy of a book years ago, Chicago Poems, and it was one of his first published. He took it to Harcourt Brace Publishers in New York, I think, and they liked the manuscript. He had been a journalist and he wrote poems, and some of them ended up in magazine articles. They liked the manuscript, but they had some problems with some of the poems that named real people. They were possibly looking at defamation issues, and this guy doesn't pull any punches. He writes hard. He writes with a sledgehammer sometimes. And he wrote a poem about the evangelist Billy Sunday. And they wouldn't accept that. They said, look, there are a couple of poems, and that's probably the most significant one, that are just trouble. And there will be religious people who have taken to the style and the histrionics of this evangelist Billy Sunday, and they won't want to hear the way you speak of him. And frankly, my only experience with Billy Sunday had been references in preaching heard from Jimmy Swaggart years ago, and also having taken the initiative to go online and find that one famous sermon entitled Booze. This man had a real war in attitude and in words against alcohol and the social consequences and costs and grief that came from the abuses of alcohol. Now, in his own life, he had been a professional baseball player, and he'd had lots of alcohol, and he had lots of wild times. Till one day, and I think it was in a distant city, they were the away team going to play a couple of games over a weekend. I think he was shortstop. And he's walking down a street, busy street, and he hears this guy say, "Hey, sinner, you're going to hell unless you receive Jesus Christ, and do it soon." And he turned around, and here's this scruffy-looking guy on a soapbox standing on the sidewalk at a busy street corner, and he's looking right at Billy Sunday. Well, that was a moment of shock and of conviction and of drama, I guess you'd have to say, and it played its part in bringing Sunday into the fold of the Good Shepherd, Jesus Christ. Anyway, I want to read you this poem. I found it rather surprising, certainly gutsy, and the people who will listen to this video will have mixed reactions, and that's fine. Poetry is supposed to provoke. It's also supposed to raise to somewhat higher ideals. Billy Sunday. The poem is 3.5 pages. You come along, tearing your shirt, yelling about Jesus. I want to know what the hell you know about Jesus. Jesus had a way of talking soft, and everybody, except a few bankers and higher-ups among the con men of Jerusalem, liked to have this Jesus around because he never made any fake passes, and everything he said went, and he helped the sick and gave the people hope. You come along, squirting words at us, shaking your fist and calling us all damn fools. So fierce the froth of your own spit slobbers over your lips, always blubbering, we're all going to hell straight off, and you know all about it. I've read Jesus' words. I know what he said. You don't throw any scare into me. I've got your number. I know how much you know about Jesus. He never came near clean people or dirty people, but they felt cleaner because he came along. It was your crowd of bankers and businessmen and lawyers that hired the sluggers and murderers who put Jesus out of the running. I say it was the same bunch that's backing you, that nailed the nails into the hands of this Jesus of Nazareth. He had lined up against him the same crooks and strong-arm men now lined up with you, praying your way. This Jesus guy was good to look at, smelled good, listened good, He threw out something fresh and beautiful from the skin of his body and the touch of his hands wherever he passed along. You, Billy Sunday, put a smut on every human blossom that comes in reach of your rotten breath, belching about hellfire and hiccuping about this man who lived a clean life in Galilee. When are you going to quit making the carpenters build emergency hospitals for women and girls driven crazy with wrecked nerves from your goddamn gibberish about Jesus? I put it to you again. What the hell do you know about Jesus? Go ahead and bust all the chairs you want to. Smash a wagon load of furniture at every performance. Turn 60 somersaults and stand on your nutty head. If it wasn't for the way you scare the women and kids, I'd feel sorry for you and pass the hat. I like to watch a good four-flusher work, but not when he starts people puking and calling for the doctor. Oh, jeez. I like a man that's got guts and can pull off a great original performance, but you? Hell, you're only a bughouse peddler of second-hand gospel. You're only shoving out a phony imitation of the goods this Jesus guy told us ought to be free as air and sunlight. Sometimes I wonder what sort of pups born from mongrel bitches there are in the world, less heroic, less typic of historic greatness than you. You tell people living in shanties Jesus is going to fix it all up right with them by giving them mansions in the skies after they're dead and the worms have eaten them. You tell $6 a week department store girls all they need is Jesus. You take a steel trust wop, dead without having lived, gray and shrunken at 40 years of age, and you tell him to look at Jesus on the cross and he'll be all right. You tell poor people they don't need any more money on payday, and even if it's fierce to be out of a job, Jesus will fix that all right. All right. All they got to do is take Jesus the way you say. I'm telling you, this Jesus guy wouldn't stand for the stuff you're handing out. Jesus played it different. The bankers and corporation lawyers of Jerusalem got their sluggers and murderers to go after Jesus just because Jesus wouldn't play their game. He didn't sit in with the big thieves. I don't want a lot of gab from a bunk shooter in my religion. I won't take my religion from a man who never works except with his mouth and never cherishes a memory except the face of the woman on the American silver dollar. I ask you to come through and show me where you're pouring out the blood of your life. I've been out to this suburb of Jerusalem they call Golgotha, where they nailed him. And I know if the story is straight, it would be real blood ran from his hands and the nail holes. And it was real blood spurted out where the spear of the Roman soldier rammed in between the ribs of this Jesus of Nazareth. Well, I read it. I won't say another thing. It's certainly quite a piece of work now, isn't it? Have a nice day. I'll stop there. Doug Blair, Kitchener, Ontario.